This is the second generation Kohler Branham urinal, a urinal that's been made since the mid 1960s, and shockingly is still made today despite there being a third generation that has existed since 2018. This is yet another pretty standard stall urinal, so let's see what this has to offer. The overall design of this urinal is very plain, honestly kind of boring. The only thing interesting is the sides, but you're not going to be really paying attention to that, so not much to say about this. So right up here is the rim jets, and throughout most of its life the second generation has had the exact same rim layout, which as you'll soon see is not a great design. Now in the 2010s it was redesigned to have a flat rim like the third generation does, but for the most part I'm only going to count this rim. If you want to see how like the redesigned version of this is, just basically compare it to my third generation and just give it a lower score on design. And that's basically the redesigned second generation. But this is the main second generation, so we're going to focus only on this design. Let's have a look at the flush. As you can see, it's pretty standard. Effectiveness is more or less the same as the third generation Kohler Branham I reviewed. I definitely think stall urinals are a little bit more effective at draining and actually doing their jobs without clogging all the time. Though I will mention, since it is mounted to the floor, and a viewer did bring this up in the last video I did of a stall urinal, there is a slightly higher chance if there's a clogged drain or something that it can really mess up the floor, especially if it overflows. That's only one thing I can really note of that can be a bit of a problem with these stall urinals, and this is no different. But for the most part, I definitely think they're better than most wall-mounted wash-down urinals. One thing that definitely brings down the effectiveness of these urinals is the rim wash. It's not very good. As you can see, it misses a huge chunk right here, which is not great, because it misses a huge chunk of the wall. And that mostly has to be blamed on the rim jets and how they're designed and laid out. If they have added 2 rim jets right there and there, that would fix the rim vents a lot better. But as it stands, it's not very great. Not to mention, it's worse on lower pressure. That is pitiful. And that is the second generation Kohler Branham urinal. Another stall urinal with some very strange flaws. In comparison to the newer generation, the third generation, this generation lacks a lot. If they have just easily fixed the rim like they did in the 2010s, then most of these urinals would be much better, but as it stands, it's very lacking. But let's put this urinal into the grading scale and let's grade it. The overall design of the second generation Kohler Branham is very stale. If you've seen any stall urinal, that's basically this urinal. The blandness of this urinal is very interesting considering this came from the 60s. But like I said, it's super boring. It gets a 5. Like most stall urinals, the flush is very simplistic. It gets a 5. The rim rinse is not very good. On weaker pressures, it misses a lot of areas. And even on moderate pressures, there are several areas that are missed. This unfortunately was a design issue with the rim jets. Had Kohler added literally 2 more rim jets before and after the metal rim jet, this could have easily fixed the rims. But no, they waited until the 2010s to redesign the rim entirely. Which is quite pathetic that you wait over 50 years to finally start redesigning the rim. A little too late, don't you say? The rim rinse gets a 5. It's not very good. Effectiveness of this urinal is okay for the most part. In comparison to traditional washdown urinals that are hung on a wall, I definitely think stall urinals definitely do their jobs a lot more effectively. Sure, there is the risk of clogged drains and stuff, but thankfully that's kind of a rare problem. The only reason I say this thing does okay is because of the rinsing issues. Had they easily redesigned the rim, this could have easily been fixed, but like I said, they waited over 50 years to finally do it. So because of that, it only gets a 6. Now let's talk about the overall value of this urinal. Like the third generation Kohler Branham urinal, this is a stall urinal, so they're pretty jack of all trades urinals. In terms of normal usage, stall urinals tend to work out a lot better compared to traditional washdown urinals. Though they do risk getting backed up and having clogged drains, which can cause some major flooding problems for your floors. Outside of that, I definitely think they're a lot more effective, but in comparison to the third generation, the second generation lacks a lot. Again, most of this is mostly blamed on the rinse. Had they literally added 2 more rim jets, the rinsing issue would not be an issue at all. It would actually probably rinse fairly good. But due to the fact that the rim jets were poorly designed, this urinal lacks a lot. So for the overall value, I'm only going to give it a 5. The final score of the second generation Kohler Branham urinal is a 26 out of 50, which equates to a 52 out of 100. Stall urinals are very interesting urinals, and sometimes they can be quite cool. But I gotta say, this generation of Branham is very disappointing. This thing could have easily been fixed had they actually paid attention and added 2 more rim jets, but as it stands, this stall urinal is very underwhelming.